Now I'd like to welcome to the programme Fiona Malone, who's from the Down Syndrome Centre. So you're very welcome, Fiona.
Thanks, Patrick. Thanks so much for having me on. Delighted to be on chatting to you today.
Very good. I know you want to talk specifically about a new fundraising campaign you have, and we'll get onto that in a few shortly,
Yeah,
but maybe you could tell us about the Down Syndrome Centre itself, how it started and what you do.
sure. Absolutely. The Down Syndrome Centre has been operating 10 years now in Dublin. We started back in 2014, and it was set up. Our founder, Peter Gaw, has two children with Down syndrome, Tara and Harrison, and they're both now in their mid-20s. Um, Fantastic young adults. But back in 2014, the Gaws realised that there were no services whatsoever for their two children. And then talking to other parents throughout the country, they realized everybody had this same problem. So, these fantastic children were just not being provided with what they needed to learn to communicate. So that's why we exist. So we went from back in 2014 to having one speech and language therapist in a new office that was set up, a therapy center that was set up in Sandyford. To today, we have 9 full-time therapists. We have a centre in Sandyford. We have a centre in Swords, which we opened just after COVID. We have 3 centres. There are 3 centres, 3 Down syndrome centres, one in Cork, one in the Midlands, and one in the Northeast. And they're independently run, volunteer-led, parent volunteer-led centres that do the same thing as we do. The idea is that children with Down syndrome really need early intervention and therapy. And it's speech and language therapy, it's occupational therapy, it's physiotherapy. And we do such a wide range of programs then that complement therapy sessions. And everything we do is to ensure that these children are reaching their full potential and that they are getting to go into mainstream school, they're getting to be included in society. We're doing this a long time, and we know a lot of children and young adults with Down syndrome. We know the potential. We know that, third level education, further education, this is a realistic option for children with Down syndrome. So we have to support them. We have to support the language. We have to support their communication. We have to support their ability to socialize, their the value they have in themselves, their confidence. At the end of the day, everybody with Down syndrome deserves to be included in society.
Of course.
And they deserve a job. They deserve to have a life. They want it, just like everybody else. There is misconception out there. So this is what we're all about. And we're doing it, and we're doing it really, really well. And we're terribly proud of what we've achieved in the last 10 years by ourselves. And when I say by ourselves, I don't mean without the public support, because we wouldn't be here without community support, without companies helping us. But we're not getting government funding, and we're not getting HSE funding. And we are running, our centres cost 1.2 million a year to run. Full-time therapy centres with 9 full-time specialised therapists who are CORI registered. And our model is quite unique because we keep everybody in-house employed on a full-time basis. And that allows us to provide continuity to our children. It allows us to run multidisciplinary therapy side by side, where an occupational therapist and a speech and language therapist and a physiotherapist is working and creating an individualized program tailored for every child that comes through the door. And we've 360 of those children coming through the door between our 2 centres in Dublin and in Swords and Sandyford. So for a charity that you might not really have heard a lot about, and people often mistake us for Down Syndrome Ireland, we work very closely with Down Syndrome Ireland. We are, huge admirers of the work Down Syndrome Ireland do, and that's really, really strong in advocacy and lobbying. And then you have the branches. But what we are is we are the therapy centres. We provide actual therapy on the ground, day in, day out. Same children coming back week in, week out, month in, month out. They've been with us from birth until, we've children now that came into us when we started in 2014, and they might have been 3 or 4 years of age, and they're now part of our teens program. and they're learning how to use the Lewis, and they're learning how to navigate buses, and they're learning how to socialize, to go to restaurants, and we're giving them all of the tools they now need to have the same life as their peers are having, and to enjoy the same experiences that every young adolescent deserves to experience. So yeah, it's magical. I could talk forever about what we do, because like we are really excited about it, and we love what we do, but at the end of the day, we need to fundraise to keep doing it.
Yeah, just looking at your website, you do an astonishing range of activities, different
Yeah.
kinds of therapy, and obviously parents and families are central to what you do as well, aren't they?
Oh, it's massive. And that's the other thing that we never realized when we set up the center, because obviously we set the center up for children. But what you then realize when you have a center like this is you suddenly had these parents. So we have this lovely family room, and the parents come in and they sit around and wait. And suddenly they're sitting beside other parents that have a child with Down syndrome. So before you know it, we have this massive community of families that socialize together, that children have parties to go to. They're all in the same boat. They have someone that they can share their experiences with. They learn from each other, they support each other. I had a dad recently say to me that he never expected to experience what he experienced once he signed up with the centre, because up until that point, he didn't really talk about his child with other parents. But suddenly he found himself sitting in a room boasting about, his child's achievements. And people have understanding, and just having that environment where people know where you're at and people are supporting you, and having just friends, and such a magnificent community. Parents are so wonderful. So that was something that, you didn't realize when you started up. And a lot of our programs then we have developed out for our parents, and for families. So we would have a sibling program, because siblings, when a child with Down syndrome or a child with any disability comes into a home, is born, siblings are affected, and they don't often know how to react, and they also don't know maybe where their place is and stuff. So we have this fantastic sibling program. So our siblings come in and we help them navigate what life is having a brother or sister with Down syndrome. And that's really great, because then that you have like a whole group of some younger, some older, that are all in the same boat, that are all experiencing the same thing. So that's really such a successful program. And then we do everything from helping parents with finance to, potty training and everything in between. So it's so busy, the mind blows sometimes, but it's all go. And it's such a positive, wonderful, nourishing environment for families, that like we're thrilled that we're able to provide this.
And you seem to provide specific services for the different stages, like for small children, then for teenagers, and so on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Patrick, this from birth. So they come in the door, and it's usually the first. We actually had a couple that came in yesterday with 10-week-old twins. Nice. Both babies have Down syndrome. So 10 weeks you're coming in the door. Now, bearing in mind that probably 40% of children with Down syndrome will have open heart surgery in the first 6 months. So, heart issues are very common. So, if a child can come in at 10 weeks, it's fantastic. That means they're strong. So if they don't have any of those additional complications, a lot of times it can be more around the 5-6 months when they've sort of gotten through some medical issues. And so they come in and they start baby classes. So they start like physiotherapy and massage, and helping parents to work with the children and ensure muscle development is going the way it should, because that's something children with Down syndrome suffer from. So it's a mild to moderate cognitive disorder for the most part, but and that's a lot to do with muscle development issues. So making sure from birth that all those little bits that can be missed, just that we're working with the child so the child is physically developing properly. So then they're straight into parent, like the young TOTS groups. So parents coming in, they do it in Swords as well and in Sandyford here. So all those parents are coming in with those very young babies, and they're very just social classes and children, being around other children. Then they move up to the next level, which is stepping stones, and it's all about helping them to meet their milestones. So things that other children will be reaching. It's more difficult for a child with Down syndrome, again, because of muscle development and cognitive issues. Then they move up into SKIP, which is an amazing program. It's setting children up, special kids program that they learn how to prepare for school. So things like sitting in a seat, having lunch, putting on your coat, filling your bag, playing with friends, sharing, all of the things that you need to learn. And all children will learn it. Children with Down syndrome just need a little bit more help. It just doesn't come as naturally to them. So SKIP is just amazing program. And when they come out of SKIP, they're ready for play school, or they're ready for preschool, or they're ready for primary school. And then they're probably into having one-to-one therapy. So they're having their speech and language therapy and their occupational therapy. And then there's their group therapies and music therapies. They have their bicycle clubs, and they have their social clubs once a month. So it's nonstop. There's something all the time, and there's something for every age. And it doesn't matter if a child comes in at birth or whether they come in when they're 5 or 6, because somebody's just found out last week that we have these services and that they're available, and they're heavily subsidized. Like if you look at the cost of speech and language therapy, if you could even get a session, it's not affordable. Now parents are coming in and paying €30 for a session of speech and language therapy, and the rest is subsidized by the centre. So it makes therapy a possibility. Now, what we charge covers about 9% of the running of the centres. So, in real terms, it's not a lot of money into us. We have a lot of money to raise after that, but it's putting parents in a position where they can have therapy. And what we would always say, and I would like to say to your listeners, if there's somebody out there listening, I know €30 isn't a lot compared to what therapy costs, but it's a massive amount of money for some families. So we would say, contact us. We're never going to see a child go without therapy. So contact us. Whether €30 is affordable or not, we want to talk to you, and we will always ensure that your child will get the therapy sessions they need.
Right. You raise money in various ways, but you're about to launch a new campaign called Inclusion Matters Return Campaign. So you can tell us about that. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks, Patrick. So this is a new campaign. We're really excited about this one. We actually piloted it out since last November. We have 85 companies around Dublin already signed up for it. It's such a simple, such an easy option for companies to do. So it's all about inclusion and sustainability. So what we're doing is we're leveraging the new deposit return scheme. So we'll all know that we're now bringing our cans and bottles back to the shops, and we're getting our vouchers, or we're claiming our money back. Companies all over Dublin aren't doing this. They're throwing their cans into general recycling, or they're throwing them, in some cases, employees throw them into the bin, whatever handiest for them. Now, cans and bottles, the whole reason the deposit return scheme was set up is because we've been tasked by the EU to separate out our aluminium cans and our bottles, because number one, they're contaminating our general recycling. Apart from them being far more valuable as recycling material, because a can be used indefinitely, a plastic bottle can be used up to 7 times, recycled up to 7 times. People don't realize that when you're putting these cans and bottles into the general recycling with your cardboard and your paper, vast majority of the time there's a little bit of minerals left in the bottom of those bottles or cans, a little bit of leakage, and you then dampen the paper, which then molds, which then rots. So you can actually contaminate massive amount of recycling, and we've had problems in Ireland in the past. So that's kind of really why this scheme has come about. It's because we need to separate out those recyclates. And those bottles are far more valuable. So we're looking at the circular economy, and, it's all about sustainability. So we thought, well, why don't we offer companies a solution? We'll provide a company with a bin. We'll provide them with bags to go into the bin. We'll provide them with collection services. And all they have to do is put the cans and bottles that are currently being wasted into the bin. We're not asking anybody for something. We're not asking people who are already cashing these in themselves or using them, may have another charity they're going to. We're simply saying, let's get those cans and bottles out of general recycling, out of waste, get them in. Let's help create a more sustainable future. And let's raise awareness for inclusion at the same time. So it's really that simple. We'll give the company a lovely bin. We have these custom designed bins, and we're really lucky that we are working with Return on this scheme. So Return, which are the body that are over this whole return scheme, they do the collections for us. So if I sign up a company today, I deliver a bin to them. They start to collect their cans and bottles in this bin, and then Return will reach out to them and organize a collection day and come and collect these bags as they're full. So it's so simple. It's a win-win for companies, because you're taking that sustainability, you know, that's really good for your ESG, the bigger companies in particular. And it's really, really resonating with companies. Like, it blew my mind in the first month. I had never expected to have so many people. I think I put a post on social media, and I was going to run a social media campaign for about a month. I didn't put the post up again the next day because I just couldn't, because I got that much of a response from day one. Companies calling me, and back when we started it, we actually didn't have Return working with us. So as a charity, we were doing this through ourselves and through volunteers. And it was just overwhelming how many people went, we need this. So we're in companies all over Dublin. We're in Central Bank, we're in the National Treasury Management Agency, we're in Garda stations. We were sponsored by Capital Credit Unions to actually get our bins out there in the first place. We're in Gas Networks Ireland, we're in KPMG. Like, we're everywhere. We're in Matheson's, we're in Ancestry. So it's when you can see the type of company that's signed up, and they've signed up with us because we're doing this really well at a really professional level. We're offering them a solution. And then, you know, having that inclusion matters on a bin in your company, the value of that to staff and to people who are there, to see that on a day-to-day basis, you know, even if the company itself doesn't have a neurodiverse person or doesn't have a person with Down syndrome, there's staff that have family and friends that are neurodiverse. So seeing that message on a daily basis, it's a wonderful thing to do. And then you think, how do we make money out of this? Anybody ask? So when these bottles and cans are returned, and Return collect them and bring them back, they donate the value of the cans and bottles to us. And this is going to allow us to pay therapists' salaries, because that is the hardest part of our charity, to fund salaries, because the model that we have is so unusual that we keep everybody on full time so that we have that, you know, continuity and trust with our parents and our children. That's not something funders like to give you money for. It's grants don't like to cover it. And it's gone way back, you know, there's reasons why that is. But it makes it very hard for us to get sort of those big grants and that big funding. So it's initiatives like this that are going to be sustainable for us and allow us to bring in salaries month on month, year on year, and keep us doing what we're doing, and not just continue doing what we're doing. We need to grow. There's an awful lot more children out there that need therapies. We need centres throughout Ireland, and that's our goal. You know, we want to have centres available for parents and children all over Ireland. And then we want to keep developing out these programs that are going to help and just see the success of children and young adults with Down syndrome going into adulthood.
Do you have any other fundraisers ongoing or coming up in the future?
Yeah, well, all the time. As they were always running something. Next week we have a fantastic fundraiser. We're in the Talbot Court. The Talbot Hotel in Stillorg, and we're running our World Down Syndrome Day corporate quiz, because the 21st of March is World Down Syndrome Day. And we have the fabulous presenter Dara Maloney, RTE sports presenter. It's a second year in a row running the quiz for us, our quiz master. And we've lots of companies signed up for that. Teams of 4. We're still taking teams with plenty of room, taking more teams. It's genuinely a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful night out. We got great sponsors on this. We private sponsors on this one, but you're talking about, you know, plenty of, it's a wine reception, and there's hot food, and there's even a cheese platter. We've had cheese platters donated for everybody, and it's so much fun. It's such a good evening, and that's happening in Talbot Court in the Talbot Hotel in Stillorgan next Wednesday, the 19th, and we have, like, throughout the year, we have ongoing things. So it's always on the website. You can check out, like, we do an event called the Legends Lunch. So it's where, like, we have 3 legends, sport legends, who we host a huge lunch. It's usually in like the Aviva or somewhere like that. And it's actually a Dad's Day, just because we have a Mom's Day separate. That's a fantastic lunch, really goes down well. We also have a 5K coming up in Sandyford with a 5K walk. So there's information about that on the website. And there's lots of, it's ongoing, and parents arrange so many things and work with us in arranging fundraisers that, you know, every week something new and something interesting, something fun that kind of can appeal to a broad range of people. So, you know, I would say if you were interested in seeing, just log on to our website, and information gets updated there on a regular basis. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear from parents out there who may not be aware that these services were available. And, you know, it's just a chat. It's worth coming in and having a chat and meeting other parents and seeing what's available to you. So please reach out to us. We have the Sandyford and Swords, and they're both just off the M50. So they're very accessible for parents, you know, across Dublin. And we have people coming from Meath and Kildare and Wicklow, you know, to the services here. So please reach out to us. Even schools, we do a huge amount of school visits. So if a child is struggling in school, our therapists will go out to the school and work with the teachers and helping to see what's causing the problem for the child, or how we can make school environment better for them. So much we can do, you know. And if you're somebody that just wants to know more, please reach out to us. The website is www.downsyndromecentre.ie. And you can ring the centre 6618,000 if you want to have a call and talk to Trish or Karen there. You know, they'll set you in the right direction, or you can talk to one of our therapists. But we'd love to hear from you. And if you're interested in signing up, if you're a business anywhere in Dublin that would like a lovely bin, insert bags, collections, all free, let us know, and we'd be delighted to hear from you.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, and we'd certainly like to hear more about later on in the year, maybe about the Inclusion Matters Return campaign when you've launched it fully, and see how much you've raised and so on. So we might ask you to come back to us again.
Sure. Actually, can I just mention, Patrick, because I forgot to mention, since we started our campaign, we have collected over 80,000 cans and bottles. Wow. Now, in the grand scheme of things, that might not be huge, but that's a lot of cans and bottles that we saved from going into general recycling or the bins. So we're very proud of that. Yeah, you'd be surprised how they mount up. And the last time I went in with my empty bottles and cans, it was a tenner's worth, you know. There you go. Yeah, so so is there anything else you'd like to add, Fiona, before we finish off? No, I think that's everything from me. Yeah. I think I talked a lot there. Your ears are sore. I think you're covered pretty much. It's not like me at all. Yeah. So thanks very much, Fiona. Thank you. Very interesting indeed. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a million. Bye.